You'll need your participant guide for oral language, module 4, and we're going to cover session 10, which is 90 minutes, session 11, which is 90 minutes, and session 12, which is 60 minutes. Of course, we don't have all that time, so I'm going to talk quickly and give you a quick overview of each of those sessions. For most slides, just like Monday, I'll talk to you facilitator to facilitator, and then I'll talk to you as a participant so you can kind of get both sides of that. So let's get started. Session 10 includes what oral language is, why it's important, and how children develop syntax, and how to teach syntax. So, like I said, this session is 90 minutes, but some sessions may go quicker than others throughout your PLC sessions. It all depends on the number of people that you have and the level of engagement that you have. So you may get into a deeper discussion on a topic, and that's okay. You can take that time to do so. And you may run out of time, and that's okay. So if you run out of time, you can just pick up where you left off at your next session. So let's look at session 10. This is a table that you're familiar with. It's in your facilitator guide to help you prepare for session 10. Remember that first activity, and this is activity 12, is from the previous session. And the previous session was module 3, vocabulary. So they'll have to dig back into there to share out. So let's look at page 13 of your participant guide for oral language. So page 13 starts with those FAQs. I'm just going to give you a quick second to skim page 13. And then look at page 14, activity 2. That's a video viewing guide for play-based language interactions. And then page 15 is planning play-based interactions with teacher scaffolding. And page 16 and 17, that's that self-study. So something that they'll do, something they'll watch, and something they'll read before they come back to the next session. And here are the videos for session 10, play-based language interactions and small group explicit instruction. We learned in module 3, you learned in module 3 of this PLC that vocabulary knowledge is a key element of oral language. Oral language is a system of words and word combinations used to communicate with others through speaking and listening. So in the self-study reading, you read that oral language develops right from birth when infants become aware of sounds and words being spoken by adults around them. So, think about everything from birth through preschool. Babies move from sounds to gestures, single words, simple sentences to complex sentences. So that's a great deal of oral language development during that time. In your additional resources section, you have a resource that's from the American Speech Language Hearing Association, and it's the milestones that children reach between ages 3 and 5 of oral language development. So if you want to look at that, it's in your participant guide. We use oral language to express and comprehend knowledge, ideas, and feelings. So it's important to keep in mind that oral language is a foundation on all emergent literacy and later reading is built. So we really need to pay attention to oral language and facilitate its growth and teach oral language. It's critically important in preschool. One of the most effective ways for preschool teachers to support children's oral language is through language interactions. So this entire module is focused on techniques to plan and facilitate meaningful language interactions to support children's development in syntax, their engagement in conversations, and their growth in listening comprehension. So remember the literacy tree animation that we reviewed in module 2. We learned that oral language is connected to all aspects of literacy. The roots of the literacy tree are print knowledge, phonological awareness, vocabulary, and oral language. And those roots nourish and support the tree so it can grow and flourish. It's also important to know that there's strong evidence connecting oral language skills in early childhood to success in reading, math, social skills, science, self-regulation throughout schooling. So it's critically important that we work on oral language. In module 3, vocabulary, you learned about the simple view of reading, in which reading comprehension equals the product of decoding and language comprehension. So understanding word meanings, concepts, and sentence structures presented in text, whether the child reads it or listens to it being read, enables the reader or listener to understand the meaning. So just like the literacy tree, the simple view of reading conveys that oral language is directly related to reading comprehension. And in fact, reading comprehension depends on language abilities. So even if there was no such thing as reading, oral language would be one of the most important skills to develop because it permeates almost everything in life. All right, so let's talk a little bit about syntax. This is taken right from your PLC slides. So the facilitator will say, syntax is an aspect of oral language and includes the rules used to put words together to make phrases and sentences. So the complexity of children's syntactic development increases over time, typically in systematic ways. Take a look at page 5 of your participant guide. There's a table on page 5 that shows examples of a child's syntactic development. So look at 1 through 5. And what do you notice about their syntactic development over time? You can type in the chat or just say it out loud. What do you notice about their syntactic development?
More words are added.
Yes, more words are added. Yep. Anything else?
They become more specific.
Yes. Yep. More specific. Yep. Good. Start using some of the ing, the suffixes, and s. And at the end, look, they're putting 2 ideas together into one complex sentence. Good. So I want to make it real clear, preschoolers and kindergarten children are not directly taught syntax and grammar. That's not what we're saying. They're not taught syntax and grammar rules. Most learn to follow spoken sentence structures used by the people around them simply by listening to others' speech patterns. So some children need a little more support than others, but at the preschool level, the goal is to support development by planning several opportunities every single day for them to hear these speech patterns and practice using these speech patterns themselves. All right, so here using play-based interactions with teacher scaffolding. But in Module 3, you discuss the importance of play for preschoolers' growth and development. And as you know, one type of play is free play, which is totally child-directed and typically lacks adult involvement. And the other type is referred to as play-based interactions, where the teacher supports children's language development during play while allowing the child or the children to direct their own play activities. So both of these types of play are really important and should be a daily part of every preschool. Scaffolding is a feature of effective instruction that we talk about throughout this entire TLC. So scaffolding is when you provide feedback to help children demonstrate a skill or concept when they could not otherwise do it on their own. The same scaffolding techniques that we practice for play-based interactions in Module 3 to support vocabulary growth also apply to support children's syntactic development. So things like asking questions, providing meaningful feedback, introducing new words, and using wait time effectively are important scaffolds to use during play-based interactions. And the whole goal of play-based interactions is for the teacher to scaffold children's language development during play while allowing the children to direct their own play activities. And here the facilitator will say, let's talk about 2 scaffolds used during play-based interactions. So one is recast and the other is expansion. A recast is when you repeat a child's utterance with varied syntax to model more correct language. For example, if you're outside jumping rope and the child says, he jumped, you can recast by saying, yes, he jumped. So did you notice how I said he jumped and I emphasized that ED in the end? So when you respond, you use your tone to stress and highlight the words you want the child to focus on. So in this example, you want the child to change the verb tense from present to past, jump to jumped. But notice I didn't say, no, that's not right. Say jumped, not jump. You know, that's not what we're saying at all. You're just modeling the correct grammar or the correct syntax that you want them to use. So recasts are only modeled. They're not intended, you don't correct them, you don't say it after me, anything like that. An expansion is when you repeat a child's utterance with a few additional words, often slightly more advanced sentence structure. So if the child says, she paint, the teacher can say, yes, she is painting at the art center. So the expansion repeated the child's utterance and added a few words to provide a more sophisticated language model. And just like a recast, you don't ask the child to repeat what you said. You are just simply modeling. All right, so let's try some. I'll say a phrase, or I'll show you a phrase on the slide, and think about how you might respond. And you can type your idea in the chat, or you can say it out loud, whichever you're most comfortable for. So let's see. If the child says, I want grapes, how might the teacher respond? It could be a recast, could be expansion. I want grapes.
You could say, great, what color grapes or how many grapes?
Yes, that's right. Good. Or you want green, sour, right. So you're being more descriptive. You're asking them sweet or sour grapes. Good. How about if the child said, I goed fast? What might the teacher say? How might they scaffold? I goed fast.
You're right, you did go fast.
You're right, you did go fast. You went fast. Good. Recast, yep. Yes, you did go fast. Yes, good. How about, I made this picture for you.
I love it. Can you tell me more about it?
Yes, I love it. Can you tell me more about it? Awesome. You made a picture of us playing on the playground. So you're modeling that descriptive language. Good. Awesome. Last one. They wants to go.
Where do they want to go?
Where do they want to go? Good. Where do they want to go? And that invites them to talk more, and you also modeled the correct syntax. Nice. Well, thank you for participating. Here is, we're talking about embedding brief language interactions. So these are conversations about experiences that children have and discussions that you facilitate about books you read to children. So these conversations are embedded throughout the day. They're brief, they're frequent, it's important, frequent. They're used one-on-one or with larger groups. Of course, one-on-one is better if you can do that, but of course it can work with larger groups. And it provides you opportunities to provide feedback to children. Okay, so let's talk about decontextualized language. So this is language used to describe or explain past or future events, or to talk about people, places, actions, and objects that are not visible in the moment. So nothing that's right here and now. So you see the boy on the slide saying, yesterday I talked to my grandma on the phone. So that happened in the past. Or tomorrow I'm going to the park with my uncle. So that's decontextualized language. Modeling this for children is not enough. It's important that we model it, but we also need to provide numerous opportunities for children to practice using precise language. So if the child said, I gave him a bath, we don't know who him is, right? You'll have to follow up with and ask more questions about him. And so we want them to say, I gave my dog a bath, or I gave, Teddy a bath. So be more precise with their language. Take a moment to look at page 12 of your participant guide. So on page 12 are opportunities to practice using decontextualized language with children. So just skim that real quickly. Okay. So then in your PLC sessions, you'll have teachers come up with some ideas and share with each other their ideas to practice decontextualized language. And that's session 10. We're going to move on to session 11. Session 11 is about teaching oral language through conversation and supporting peer-to-peer language interactions. So let's look at some highlights. Again, this table is in your facilitator guide and to help you prepare for session 11. And remember that first activity that you look at comes from session 10 because it's that self-study that your participants did before they came to this session. So let's start on page 29 and look at that activity 5, video viewing guide for engaging multi-turn conversations. And then page 30 is activity 6, conversation starters and continuers. We're going to look closer at that one. So then look at page 31, reflect, plan, and implement as self-study. And we're going to look closer at that one. So I'm going to move on. Okay, so here's a video for this session, engaging in multi-turn conversations. All right, session 11 is about understanding the importance of daily conversations and paying attention to pragmatics. So conversational strategies in this session include engaging in multi-turn conversations, modeling language during conversations, and providing strategic scaffolding during conversations. So we all know a conversation is simply 2 or more people talking with each other to share ideas and information. And we all know children love to talk, and they say things like, when will I? Why does? Did you see that? Look at me. So we want teachers to take advantage of every available moment like these to have a conversation with a child or a group of children to support their oral language development. An added advantage of conversing with children is that you'll develop connections with them. You'll learn about their interests and enhance their sense of belonging. So talking with young children encourages their oral language development as well as their cognitive development, their social skills, and their emotional maturity. So let's see. I'm going to say a statement, and you can say yes if you agree or no if you disagree. There is a difference between talking with children and talking to children. Yes if you agree, no if you disagree.
Yes.
Yes. Yes, yes, yes. I heard yes, I see yes. Okay, yes. Does anyone want to share what that difference might be, if there's a difference of talking with children and to children?
Well, talking to children can be more directive, more one-sided, as opposed to a conversation, which is a give and take, you know, pause, allow the other, you know, so it's more, you know, in that kind of way, yeah.
Absolutely, absolutely. So of course it's important to talk to children when you're talking about classroom procedures and rules and things like that, but it's equally as important for you to talk with children about things that interest them, how they feel, what they wonder about. So children should talk with you as much or more than you talk to them. All right, pragmatics refers to how language is used in social situations or during our daily conversations with others. So pragmatics is an important part of oral language development because it includes what you say, how you say it, and your nonverbal communication. It's important for teachers to take advantage of the fact that children will imitate their language and actions. Teachers can model pragmatics throughout the day. You know children are going to imitate everything you say and everything you do, so we need to take advantage of that. Okay, multi-turn conversations. So children's oral language, cognitive, and social development is more advanced depending on how often you have conversations with children and the quality of those conversations. So having high quality conversations means that you ask thought-provoking questions, you respond meaningfully to children's words, and you give children your full attention. And also talking in a positive tone of voice. So threaded throughout this session is how teachers can build language skills by being intentional in the conversations they have with children. So on the slide tells us, you know, it involves back and forth turns where you build on and connect with the child's statements, questions, and responses. It is most productive one-on-one, but it can be done in small groups. And each child needs many opportunities to practice talking. You'll notice several figures throughout Module 4 that look like the comic strips, like the one you see on the slide. And these are meant to provide concrete examples of strategies teachers can use to promote oral language. The one on the slide is on page 21 of your participant guide. So the boy is wiggling and he says, I had the wiggles today. And the teacher actually starts wiggling too and says, the wiggles, are you wiggly like an octopus? And the boy says, yes, I wiggle like an octopus, watch me. And the teacher says, you have the wiggles today, just like an octopus. You just can't stop moving around. So she responded to he talked first, she responded, she copied him, she used his language, she asked a question, and then she even built in a definition of wiggles by saying you can't stop moving around. So take a moment to review the figures on page 21 and 22. I'm going to give you a full minute actually to look at page 21 and 22. And our very own Nathan Archer, who you met this morning, who's helping facilitate the technology piece of this meeting, is the illustrator of these. So we're very proud and grateful to Nathan for sharing his talent with us. Okay, here's part of figure 1 on page 21 for the participant guide. Children are at the block center, and the teacher says, you have a slide and swings. Tell me more about the slide. And the child says, it is red and fun. And the teacher says, the slide is red and fun? So she modeled what she said, the child said, then said, how exciting. Tell me how you built the slide. And the child says, I put this block here and this one here. And the teacher says, you place the red block above the blue block. So the teacher's using more descriptive language, asking, tell me how you built it, encouraging the multi-turn conversations. She's listening. So all of those things that we want teachers to do. And active listening is really an important part of these multi-turn conversations. So when you're actively listening, you provide visual cues, like you can get down on their level, you can look toward them as they speak or look at what they're talking about and use gestures and facial expressions. All right, let's look at this example. So this is during snack time. This is an example of a conversation starter and continuer. So during snack time, the teacher starts a conversation by saying, if you could make your whole house out of food, what food would you use? And then maybe a child says chocolate. And then a continuer might be, why would you use chocolate to build your house? Or how would you build your house out of chocolate? Or would your house be built on healthy food? What makes it healthy or not healthy? So the starter and then the continuers. All right, let's look at this activity, which is on page 30 of your participant guide. Please turn to page 30. And there's an example at the top of this page where they're at the art center, so that's the context, and the teacher starts the conversation by saying, do you like coloring or painting better? And then there's some continuers. Why do you like coloring better than painting? Or tell me what you like to color. Where would you hang your best picture that you colored? So there's an example. And what I would like you to do is actually think of a context, a conversation starter, and one continuer, and drop that in one chat. So a context, a conversation starter, and one continuer. See if we could get an example or two.
I'm sorry, Marcia, just any conversation starter?
Yep. You think of a context. It could be anywhere, a center, an outside, a circle time, any context you think of, and then think of one thing that you say that you could say as a starter, a conversation starter, and then one thing that might be a conversation continuer. So here's an example. Snack time is the context. The starter is, if you could make your whole house out of food, what food would you use? And then a continuer would be, why would you use chocolate, or whatever the child said. Okay, playground. Do you like playing on the slide or on the swings better? Why do you like playing on the slide, swings better? Nice. So just like that, yep. What's your favorite part of the playground? Yep. If you think of any more, please just drop them in there, but we're gonna move on. I don't want to run out of time. Okay, so strategic scaffolding during conversation. We've talked a lot about scaffolding, which is another feature of effective instruction throughout the PLC. Strategic scaffolding of language is providing an intentional response to a child during conversations. It's important to meet children where they are linguistically and help them progress through conversations. And you can do this through the use of instructional scaffolds. For example, asking an open-ended question could be a scaffold. An open-ended question is one that requires more than a one-word answer. So a non-example would be, what is your favorite animal? That is not an open-ended question. But if you ask, why is a dog your favorite animal? That requires more than one-word answer. So that's an open-ended question. There's no way to predict what a child might say, but having a variety of scaffolds in mind to choose from will help you select one that matches the child's language skills and support their oral language development. So take a look at page 26 of your participant guide. Okay, these are examples of language scaffolds. Just take a moment to review the examples in this table. So we're going to just try one. I'm going to say something a child might say, and then you can either shout out or drop in the chat how a teacher might respond. So if I say, oh, this is my favorite one, I don't want to share. What might a child, or what might a teacher, how might a teacher scaffold that? If a child says, I don't want to share.
I know sharing is hard, but how does it make you feel when somebody doesn't share their toys with you?
Love that answer. So you confirm, yes, I know, I understand how you're feeling right now, but then you're asking a question. Nice.
I think it's important to also recognize that children don't always have to share.
Yeah.
And then, so mine was, when can the other child have a turn? When
Yep.
will you be willing, what strategies can we use to let you finish your turn and let the next child have their turn?
I love that. Problem solving. And there's one, how would you feel if Sam didn't want to share with you? Yes. Nice. When can the child have another turn? Yes. So I love all these. Thank you for participating. And I'm really sorry that there's a lawnmower outside my window right now. Okay. Peer-to-peer language interactions are conversations among children. So for some children, language interactions occur naturally, for example, during playtime. Some children who might be shy or might be an English language learner or have language delays may be less likely to talk, often with peers, and may need a little more support in doing so. So let's look at an example of how a teacher can support peer-to-peer language interactions. So look at page 27 of your participant guide. So on page 27, you'll see, well, I'll give you a few seconds to look at it. So you notice how the teacher facilitated one child teaching another child how to play a game, which encouraged that peer-to-peer language interaction. Take a look at the bottom of that same page, 27, and those bullets. Those are more examples of encouraging peer-to-peer language interactions. And so when you're conducting the PLC, you'll ask your participants to share other ways that maybe they do in their classroom to support peer-to-peer language interactions. All right, let's look at page 31. This is the self-study activity. And I just want to point this out to you because in this one, we have the teacher record themselves having a conversation with a child and then watch that recording and answer reflective questions about it, because we think you can learn a lot from that. And they can see, you know, how did they listen actively? Did they use wait time? So all the things that you talked about during the session, are they actually applying it when they have a conversation with the child? So I just wanted to point this out to you because we don't typically ask them to video themselves. They could actually audio record this, but video would be better because you could see the pragmatics in there. So just wanted to point that out to you. I think we asked them to record themselves, video themselves once or twice, and we give them tips in case children can't be videoed of how they can do that. Those are the highlights of session 11. Thank you for your participation. Session 12 includes listening comprehension, considerations for English language learner students and students with disabilities, and additional resources. And just as a reminder for our purposes, we're going to review those considerations during the third day on Friday. And then here's the table to help you prepare for this session. And we're going to start on page 47. And this is video viewing guide for interactive reading on page 47. And then 48 is interactive reading lesson plan for expository text structure. So they develop a lesson plan. And then on page 49 is another video viewing guide for listening comprehension. And then that last activity, remember, this is the third session in this module. So we go back to the first session of this module, which would be session 10, and we go over those FAQs again and see if our answer changed and how our answers changed. And the videos for this, excuse me, are interactive reading and listening comprehension. Okay, so here listening comprehension is the ability to understand spoken language. It's sometimes referred to as oral comprehension. It allows us to understand conversations we hear and engage in, and it also allows us to understand what we read and what is read out loud. So when you read out loud to children, they use their developing language skills, including vocabulary knowledge and syntax skills, to understand what is being read to them. Those same skills that support listening comprehension are used for reading comprehension once children begin to read. So I want to make sure that's really clear. So those same skills that support listening comprehension are also the same skills that support reading comprehension when they start reading. So that's why the emphasis, it's just so very important of reading out loud to children and facilitating discussions about what is read to enhance their listening comprehension. All right, these are the 3 steps for interactive reading. Module 3 discussed a very specific version of interactive reading called dialogic reading. And this session covers a more general strategies for interactive reading that can be implemented for any group size. Interactive reading is a strategy that can enhance children's listening comprehension. So for interactive reading, you would select a book, and then you would develop discussion questions, and then you would develop and ask follow-up questions. So it's really important when you're selecting the book, you'll want to have an instructional goal in mind. So the goal might be a language-focused one, like you want the students to engage in multi-turn conversations. That might be the goal of your interactive reading. You also want to consider your theme and your vocabulary from your network of words, which I know you just talked about in Module 3. So of course, also consider the children's interest. And then you want to develop discussion questions that support your learning goal. So if your learning goal, for example, is you want children to be able to sequence a story, know what happened at the beginning, in the middle, and the end, then you would ask questions to support that. What happened first, what happened next? And then you want to ask follow-up questions. And it's hard to develop those ahead of time because the follow-up questions are in response to what the children say. So things like, why do you think that happened? Or do you agree with the choice he made? Why or why not? Those are some follow-up questions. And we also encourage teachers to use Post-it notes, and they can write the question down on the Post-it note and then put it right on the page where they intend to ask the question. All right. So here, when planning for interactive reading, you can think of your initial question as a prompt, and then your follow-up question as a form of scaffolding. So while you listen to children's responses to your initial question, you want to think very purposefully, intentionally about what they're saying so you can plan how to respond in a way that will help move them forward in their language development. So for example, an expansion might be if the child says, sheep drive, an expansion would be, the sheep drove the Jeep. Where did they drive the Jeep? And then to elaborate on a child's response, if the child said, sheep crying, the teacher could say, the sheep are crying because they are sad. Why do you think the sheep are crying? Or why do you think the sheep are sad? So those are just examples of how you can expand or elaborate as a scaffold. All right, I'm going to check on time. And Lori?
You've got plenty of time. You've got about half an hour, Marcia.
Thank you. Okay, good. All right, so what I'd like you to do is turn to page 47. All right, so this is a video viewing guide for interactive reading. So we're actually going to watch this video. We may not watch the whole thing, but we'll watch part of this video. And I want you to think about some of these questions, and you can drop answers in the chat as we go if you're comfortable doing that, or we can just talk about them after, or we can do both. So we'll watch the beginning of it.
When planning for an interactive read aloud, consider your classroom theme and the network of words you created around that theme. Books can range from narrative stories to expository informational text. By including a variety of books in your interactive readings, children will begin to comprehend and enjoy various text structures. Once this teacher has decided to focus on how we keep our bodies healthy, she made an initial list of words that match this topic. She also identified key concepts she wants to cover during the theme. With these ideas in mind, she reviews multiple books to see how well they match her goals for the theme and her ongoing goal of teaching text structure. She then chooses an expository book about germs. After reading the book, She determines that this book would lend itself well to teaching cause and effect. She begins to write down questions related to this skill that she can ask during her read aloud with the children.
This book is called Germs Make Me Sick. So do you think she's yelling, or maybe she's what? Coughing. Maybe she's coughing on somebody. So Germs Make Me Sick by Melvin Berger, illustrated by illustrated by Marilyn Kastner. Says you wake up one morning, but you don't feel like getting out of bed. Your arms and your legs ache. Your head hurts. You have a fever. What makes you sick? The germs and the what? Viruses. Good job. Yep. Under a microscope, some bacteria look like little round balls. See this? Others are straight as rods. Still others are twisted into spiral shapes.
Yeah, they're like twisty twists.
Viruses are far tinier than bacteria. Some look like balls with spikes sticking out of them at all sides. Others look like loaves of bread or like tadpoles. There are even some that look like metal screws with spider legs. You take a sip of your cousin's soda. Her germs are on the straw. A few of the germs may get into your stomach. What is the effect of sipping your soda? What happens if you sip your cousin's soda? It can make you
feel better.
It maybe.
If you're sick and you drink your soda and then you share it, then they will get sick.
That's right. You are sharing your germs. So you just explained effect to us. Effect, can you say the word effect?
Effect.
Effect means something that happens after you do something. Everyone say effect. Can you say effect again? Effect. You may have pains and aches, run a fever, or break out in a rash. You may cough or sneeze or throw up. Hold on. These signs tell you that the cells are being damaged or killed in your body. Some bacteria gives off poisons that stay close to the bacteria. Bacteria in your mouth are like that. Their poison attacks only your teeth and causes cavities. It does not go to other places in your body. Earaches and boils on the skin can also be caused by bacteria where poisons stay in one place. What causes cavities?
Germs.
Germs where?
In your body.
But where in your body?
In your mouth.
In your mouth, right? Because I can't get a cavity if I got a germ on my toe, right? No, because my teeth are in my mouth. So a germ would have to be in my mouth.
Yeah, like all the way in your mouth.
Like all the way in your mouth.
I go to the dentist. Yeah, I went to the dentist.
So in this part of the book is telling me that cavities happen because, right? Because there are bacteria in your mouth. If we don't clean the bacteria out of our mouth, what will the effect be?
Die.
Well, no. First you'll get what?
Sick.
You can get sick, or you get what in your teeth?
A germ.
Virus or cavities, right?
Or germs.
Well, the germs, if we don't get the germs out of our mouth, the effect would be cavities. Rules for good health. Number one, say number one.
Number one.
Stay away from anyone with a cold or the flu. Number two. Say number two. Count with me. Number two. Wash your hands with soap and warm water to get rid of germs. What comes after two?
Three.
Number three. Eat good, healthy foods. Can you scoot back, babe? Thank you. I know you can stretch them out, but don't scoot in front of Victor so he can still see. All right, so we're on three. What comes after three? I lost my count. Four. Brush your teeth after meals. 5. Get plenty of rest. 6. Do some exercise every day. Every day.
7.
Visit your doctor and dentist regularly for checkups. And what 8? Be sure to get the shots you need. Let's see if you were listening. If you want to stay healthy, you should do what? Raise your hand and tell me. Wait. Let me see. Raise your hand so we can hear everybody. What should you do to stay healthy?
Brush your teeth.
Brush your teeth. What's another thing to do to stay healthy?
Don't eat sweets.
Don't eat sweets? Or you can eat a little bit, right?
Yeah,
You can eat them for Halloween. What's another thing you can do to stay healthy?
Get medicine.
Get medicine. Should you always take medicine or just when you're sick?
Just when you're sick.
Just when you're sick. What's another thing?
I was going to say brush teeth and that.
You got something else?
Always wash your hands.
Always wash your hands. That's super important. You have one thing? What do you have to tell me to stay healthy? What can you do to stay healthy?
You need to eat. You need to go to the doctor and get shots so you don't get germs.
That's right. Get your checkups. What is yours?
You always stay healthy and eat a lot of vegetables.
That's right. Eat lots of vegetables.
After conducting interactive reading, evaluate how the children responded. Was the book too long or too short? Were the children engaged? Was the information presented in the book too complex or too simple? Were you able to finish the read aloud in a 10 to 15 minute session? If you were unable to read the whole book, when will you finish it? For this particular book about germs, the children were engaged and actively participating. However, if you read an expository book and the children are not engaged, or the information is too complex, don't give up on expository books. There are so many to choose from. Look for other informational books that are less complex or read just a few pages at a time.
Okay, I'm so glad we got to see that whole video. And just as a side note, we filmed this video pre-COVID. So I thought it was interesting that all the stuff, wash your hands, and all the things are always valid, but especially now. Okay, so let's look at just a couple of these questions on page 47. What did you notice about how the teacher prepared for this interactive reading? And you can drop in the chat or yell it out, whatever you want. What did you notice how she prepared at the beginning of the video? I saw one comment that said, love that the video includes planning.
Yeah, she was using Post-its and reading through the book herself. It wasn't like a surprise when she got to certain pages.
Yep. And planned questions, read through the book. Excellent.
She decided on her purpose and then chose the book to go along with her purpose.
Yeah, so her goal, she wanted students to be exposed to and understand cause and effect, and then she chose a text that would meet that goal. Excellent. Looked at several books to choose from. Yeah, she really did. So that intentional planning, we keep saying that word, intentional planning, intentional responses, intentional scaffolding. How about, let's look at number 3. What skill or concept does the teacher focus on during the interactive reading? I think we kind of answered that one, but. Germs, healthy foods, etc. Yep. And then when she talked about things that happen because of something, she was trying to get, I think she was trying to get cause and effect in there. Good. How about, let's look at number 5. What does the teacher do after the interactive reading session with children? So when she was all done with the lesson, what did she do?
Reflect on their responses, on the length of their attention.
Yep. Yep. She did. She reflected on what, how it went, their responses. Did they understand? Were they engaged? Awesome. And it's really important. We want teachers to do that so that they can adapt as they need to and adjust to meet the children where they are. And that will help them in planning the next lesson. Excellent. Thank you so much for your participation. Let's talk a little bit about text structure. So when selecting books to read to children, it's important to consider all types of text structure. And text structure is just simply the way a text is organized. Think about a recipe. So when I say recipe to you, how is a recipe organized? You can tell me that. How's a recipe organized?
Ingredients and then your steps.
Yeah, so your ingredients, and how are the ingredients organized?
By amount and type.
Yep, and is it a narrative, long story of ingredients, or is it a list of ingredients? A list, okay. So you have your list of ingredients, and then I heard you say steps. So then there's a sequence of steps of how to put those ingredients together to make your dish. So if I say, if I don't show you anything, and all I say is, we're going to look at a recipe, you automatically have that text structure of a recipe in your mind. You know you're going to see a list of ingredients and then a sequence of steps of what to do with those ingredients. So you are automatically going to comprehend that better if I hand you a recipe than someone who has never seen a recipe, knows what a recipe is, cooked a meal at all. So we want to help children understand different types of text structure because that contributes to their comprehension of text. All right. Okay, so here's an example of narrative text structure. Narrative text structure tells a story, and it usually has a beginning, a middle, and end. And we're all familiar with this, and this is typically what preschool and kindergarten teachers usually go to first, are narratives. So they usually include story elements referred to as story grammar, and that is characters, a setting, a problem, and a solution. And examples include stories, myths, legends, science fiction, and fables. Personal narratives, so your personal experiences that you talk about, that's an example of a narrative. And also the decontextualized language that we talked about earlier are examples. Okay. So participants will need the expository text that they brought to this session. So in the previous session, something for them to do was to bring an expository text to this session. And then we encourage the facilitator, you, to have some books as backup if needed. So here the facilitator will say, expository text is factual text, and it's meant to inform, explain, or persuade. And examples include textbooks, newspapers, diaries, brochures, biographies, and autobiographies. And you saw in the video we just watched, she used Germs Make Me Sick, which was an example of an expository text. Authors use a variety of text structures when they organize their ideas for expository text. And here are examples of different text structures for expository text. It could be a description, a sequence, a problem and a solution, a compare and contrast, or cause and effect. And it's important to note that each expository text could include more than one of this type of text structure. So it could be a description and a sequence, or it could be a description and cause effect, which I think is her Germs Make Me Sick. I think that book was a description and it was cause and effect. All right, let's look at page 48 of your participant guide. And this is an interactive reading lesson plan for expository text structure. We're not going to actually do this activity, but your participants will develop a lesson plan using that expository text that they brought to this session. So this is the lesson plan template that they'll use. You can provide sticky notes, and We also refer them to pages 33 through 40 of their self-study reading to use as a support for them to create their lesson plans. And we encourage them to work in pairs, of course. And the nice thing about the interactive reading lesson plan that they develop and this one, if they're at the same center or the same school, they can share their books with each other. And so the lesson is kind of already there and created. So we encourage them to do that as well. Okay, so here, this is the last PLC session of the whole entire PLC. So this is our last one. So that you'll say, the facilitator will say, let's continue to learn. There's a wealth of resources in your participant guide from which to do so. I hope you continue to read and learn with each other. Now let's review what you will do, watch, and read after this session. So for this one, since it's the last one, it's a little bit different because you don't have a plan to come back. I mean, if you can, please make a plan to come back and work together again. But you ask them to implement the interactive reading lesson that they planned using their expository text, and then encourage them to watch videos from the PLC. By now they would have watched all 30-some videos, but encourage them to go back to one of the components that they want to, enhance in their own instruction. Because sometimes when you watch a video a second time, you learn more from it. And then we also encourage them to read a resource from the additional resources section, because that's at the back of every single participant guide. We have extra articles they could read about that component and instructional materials that they could use. So we encourage them to do that. And I believe, maybe not, oh yes, we always end with, we have completed session 12. Thank you for participating in our professional learning community, Emergent Literacy. Thank you for sharing your knowledge and working as a team. And I hope you continue to meet and learn with each other. So that is actually the end of session 12.